Stay out there. The baby is so noisy, despite it being the middle of a freezing winter night. My husband dragged me out onto the balcony while I held our baby. And then he locked the window from inside so I couldn't get back in. Open this up, please, ignoring my desperate pleas and banging on the window. My husband swiftly downed his whiskey and retreated to the bedroom. The balcony on the 8th floor of our apartment building was exposed to a chilling north wind, rapidly sapping my body heat. If this continues, the baby will be in danger. My growing anxiety seemed to affect the baby, who cried louder and more incessantly. The more I thought about what would happen next, the more I was overwhelmed with anxiety. I am Catherine Smith, 33 years old. I married James, who is the same age as me, 4 years ago. We had a son 6 months ago. We were very happy as a couple until I became pregnant. Around the 5th month of my pregnancy, James's attitude towards me suddenly turned cold. Lately, our arguments have become more frequent, and he always finds reasons to berate me. Just today, he blamed me for resting due to exhaustion from childcare when he came home. You should be awake and waiting for me when I come home. That's a wife's duty. You should be aware that you're being fed. You're useless since you can't even earn money. But it's already past 2 in the morning. I can't stay awake that long. At that remark, I just couldn't hold back. However, just as I was responding, our 6-month-old started crying and wouldn't be soothed. No matter how much I tried. Stay out there since you're so loud. Suddenly, with me still holding our child, James pushed us out onto the balcony and locked the door. No matter how hard I banged on the window, he didn't return from the bedroom. Dressed only in pajamas with a cardigan thrown over. I was without my phone and couldn't call for help. Additionally, we're on the 8th floor. There's no way I could descend on my own. The baby, sensing our precarious situation, kept crying. I can't stay out in this freezing wind for much longer. More worried about the baby's well-being than my own, I searched for something to shield us from the wind. I found a blue tarp in a storage box on the balcony, and using it, I huddled close, holding the baby tight against the cold. The baby continued crying as if sensing my anxiety, its cries echoing in the chilly night air. I hoped that by morning, James would be in a better mood. But as time wore on, my entire body was shaking uncontrollably from the cold. Eventually, a light drizzle started, and it seemed likely to turn into snow. After a while, I started to feel dizzy and lightheaded. No, if I fall asleep now, it's going to be a disaster. I tried to rouse myself by slapping my cheeks, but my consciousness kept fading. Suddenly, I heard someone calling out to me. "Are you Mrs. Smith? What are you doing out here at this hour?" As I was scurrying around, not knowing where the voice was coming from. The partition between us and the neighbor on the balcony was removed. And Rebecca, our neighbor, approached me from there with a concerned look. The partition had been cracked during a storm and hadn't been fixed. My husband and I had a fight, and he locked me out here. He's locked the door, and I can't get back in. How could he do that in the middle of a winter night? Come to my place. It's a good thing we hadn't fixed this partition. Rebecca then proceeded to remove the cardboard pieces she had placed to patch the hole in the partition. It was just wide enough for an adult to crawl through if they crouched down. But won't it bother you at this time of night? Don't worry about something so trivial. First, hand me the baby. I entrusted the baby to the hand she extended and gratefully entered her home. Once inside, she wrapped the baby in a warm, soft blanket. To my surprise, the baby, who had been crying until a moment ago, calmed down as if it was all a lie and soon started to snore softly. It must have felt warm and comforting. Catherine, don't hesitate to sit by the heater. Oh, okay. Thank you. I apologize for intruding in the middle of the night. The argument with James definitely started after 2 a.m. The hands of the clock on the wall now point to 3:30. I must have been on the balcony for about an hour, and I feel as if my hands and feet are numb from the cold. The baby seems fine. I work night shifts, so I'm naturally a night owl. Just relax and stretch your legs. Even so, I couldn't help but feel guilty. However, I realized that my early rising mother-in-law would soon be waking up. When I hastily contacted her, she laughed, saying, "Let me guess, you and your husband had a fight. She decided to come over with a spare key." While waiting for my mother-in-law to arrive, I told Rebecca everything that had happened so far. After having a child, James's attitude changed suddenly. He would shout at me for not being good at housework even though I was a full-time housewife. And whenever our child cried at night, he blamed me. Rebecca listened intently to my story, nodding in understanding. Because I'm not a good mother. I'm always short of sleep and can't do my chores properly. You've been through a lot. You're doing great. Being constantly blamed by James made me think that maybe I was the problem. But her words, telling me I wasn't at fault, brought tears to my eyes. Just then, I heard a gentle knock at the front door. When I looked at the clock, it was almost 4 a.m. Probably, my mother-in-law drove over with the spare key. When Rebecca invited my mother-in-law inside, she repeatedly bowed her head in gratitude and handed over some vegetables she had harvested from her own garden. I'm truly sorry for getting involved in my son and daughter-in-law's fight. When my mother-in-law asked me the reason, I explained everything to her. Her face turned bright red with anger. Who does he think provides his meals? That would be thanks to James. No, I'm angry at my son. He can't even cook for himself. It's ridiculous for a good-for-nothing like him, who can't even do housework, to look down on a full-time housewife. That, on his own, James wouldn't be able to live a decent life. Moreover, it's inevitable for a baby to cry at night. I can't believe he's my son for making the baby stay on the balcony. I'm so angry, I feel like steam is coming out of my ears. Realizing that my mother-in-law was on my side, not James's, was a relief. But then, she abruptly stood up and said she would wake James and give him a piece of her mind. I held onto her arm, trying to stop her. In about an hour, it'll be the time James usually wakes up. If we disturb his sleep, it might backfire. James, who usually has a hard time waking up, is extremely grumpy in the morning. I felt that possibly waking him up would only make him more stubborn and angry. When I explained, my mother-in-law somehow restrained herself. Oh, the first snow is falling. It was unusually quiet outside, and when I realized, a gentle snow had started to fall and was lightly accumulating. Just thinking about if the baby and I had stayed out on the balcony made my spine shiver. It was about time for my husband to wake up. So I left the baby with Rebecca and my mother-in-law, and I used a spare key to enter our home. However, it was the usual time when he'd be up and brushing his teeth. But he was nowhere to be seen in the washroom. Is he still sleeping, James? Get up now, huh? My mother-in-law opened the bedroom door with a loud noise and fervently pulled back the duvet, but James wasn't there either. He wasn't in the bedroom, bathroom, or the toilet. Yet, his suit and shoes were still here, so it didn't seem like he had gone to work. Where could he have gone? That's strange, isn't it? Off. Casually, my mother-in-law, who had opened the curtain to the balcony side, let out a scream. When I ran up to her, my mother-in-law was on the balcony, pointing to the blue sheet I was covering, her mouth agape. From there, I could catch a glimpse of a person's foot. That could it be? Cautiously removing the blue tarp, James was found lying there in just his underwear. That why is he on the balcony? Could it be? My mother-in-law said that before going to the neighbors, she briefly entered our room. She noticed that the balcony window was open, so she closed it and locked it. But I don't remember seeing James there at that time. I wonder why. My mother-in-law repeatedly shouted, "Oh, come on, wake up," to James. But he seemed to be unconscious. We decided to cover him with a blanket to keep him warm, and waited for the ambulance to arrive. I need to inform his company that he won't be coming in. I tried to use James's nearby mobile phone, but it was locked and I couldn't unlock it. Oh, for fingerprint authentication, just do this. My mother-in-law grabbed the fallen James' hand and quickly unlocked the phone using his finger. What's this? The phone screen had Messenger open, and there was a loving conversation with his mistress written on it. Upon closer inspection, the person he was messaging was my friend, Sarah. Looking back, they seemed to have started their affair 6 months ago. around the time I was in the middle of my pregnancy and when James started to become distant. Moreover, there were numerous intimate photos saved in the photo folder. So that's what was going on. I can't believe they're still seeing each other. My anger bubbled up inside. And to think that the person he was cheating with was my friend. Honestly, what's he thinking? And now that this has happened, we should make him deeply reflect on his actions. Saying that, my mother-in-law smirked and told me about a secret plan. After being urgently transported by the ambulance, various tests and treatments were conducted on James. He regained consciousness after a while, but was advised to stay in the hospital for several days for observation. Huh? Where am I? Waking up and looking around with a puzzled expression. When I told him why he was here, he suddenly became furious. I was worried because you disappeared from the balcony. I thought you might have fallen down. When I tried to look down, I slipped and hit my head. When I came to, the balcony window was closed, and it was cold from the falling snow. What would you do if I had died? It's unbelievable that James, who always sleeps in just his underwear after drinking, went out on the balcony wearing nothing at all. It's too bad you didn't go to the other side. You locked the balcony door as revenge, didn't you? No, it was your mother. She probably locked it without noticing you were passed out. What? My mother did. I couldn't get into the house, so I asked your mother to bring the spare key. James was quite surprised to hear that his mother had come. He kept grumbling about how embarrassing it would be if the relatives found out and how he would get lectured by his mother. By the way, how did you disappear from the balcony? Rebecca next door noticed and helped me. You never even bothered to bring in the laundry. So you didn't know that the partition board on the balcony was broken, did you? Huh. So, when she asked why I was on the balcony in the middle of the night, I told her everything. James's face turned ghostly pale as he realized not only the relatives but also the neighbors knew about it. Stop messing around, damn woman, or remember this later, he shouted, and I handed him his cell phone. You have some nerve to act like that. Of course, the phone had texts and photos of him being affectionate with his affair partner. James looked shocked and went pale, giving off a vibe of this is bad. I can't forgive you for cheating. And it's even more unforgivable to have an affair with my friend. What a lousy woman to peek into someone's phone without permission. I was trying to find a phone number to contact your office, and your messenger chat was left open. Office, you're taking a day off from work today. It's natural to give them a heads up. When I told him I had also explained the whole reason for the leave, he was utterly shocked. Your boss said, that's terrible. I never thought he was that kind of person. I wonder what will happen now. Maybe a demotion or even getting fired. If I get fired, you'll be in trouble too because we won't be able to make a living. He still blamed me as if everything was my fault. I used to feel guilty about his attitude, but not anymore. I don't care about that. I hate men who cheat. And I can't stand being with someone who endangers even our child. We should break up. You can't do that. Don't joke around. You just need to listen to what I say. He thought he could control me by yelling and being assertive. It was clear that arguing with him was pointless. I will make sure you sign the divorce papers no matter what. I also told him that I had already contacted the husband of his affair partner, who was quite angry and on his way to the hospital. He was a black belt in karate, and that he had mouthed off that an apology was not enough. At first, James looked panicked, but then defiantly said that he couldn't do anything because he was in the hospital. Just then, my mother-in-law arrived with bags for his hospital stay. Oh, you're awake, you good for nothing. It's all because Mom locked the balcony door. It all started when you complained about the baby crying at night and kicked out Catherine, right? Well, seeing him subdued after being scolded by his mother-in-law, I decided to deliver the final blow. That's why I'm filing a police report. What? Why? You put me and our child in danger. It's only right. There's no need to go that far. It was just a petty marital spat after all. I was the one who suggested getting a divorce and reporting to the police. We almost lost our precious grandchild because of you. You should reflect on your actions in a cold, chilling prison. With that said, goodbye. Wait, Catherine, a child needs his father. Let's not get a divorce. Please don't report it to the police. I don't need a father who would lock us out on a cold balcony in the middle of the night. I don't want to go to jail. Please have mercy. Ignoring my screaming husband, I went straight to the police to file a report. After being discharged from the hospital, he was arrested and is awaiting sentencing. Given what he did, he's bound to face severe punishment. He was understandably fired from his job. After the divorce was finalized, I was paid my share of the property by James. He is jobless and broke. I heard his affair partner divorced her husband too. I've now returned to my parents' home and am living with our son. Perhaps because the agitated father is no longer around, my son has had many more days filled with smiles. Whenever I take him to visit his grandmother, she's overjoyed. To protect this child's adorable smile, I will continue to raise them with plenty of love.